Hi all. This is a continuation of what I presented to the third years in class, and what I showed you was fairly complex and I realize might not suit most of you. But I'm going to show you how to do it in any case, just in case there are those who want to use it, and there are strategies in here that you can use elsewhere. What I showed you on Tuesday was in fact in many ways unusable in ultimately, other than being able to generate surfaces, and I'll show you why very quickly. If I try and trim the surface, you'll see what's going to happen. You can have a look just without trimming it. You can see the gaps in these items. They don't line up. When I try and trim it, it's going to create a mess. So I'll just show you quickly. So if I say remove these two items, I'm left with a tiny sliver over here, which also relates to how that top surface or this outer surface relates to the handle, because if I try and trim this, it trims away the whole handle. Right, so to get that right, I'd have to go back and fiddle with items to get them to extend beyond one another. And so it actually ultimately is not giving me what I want. So no matter what I do, I'm always going to be left with strange surfaces left over, which I'll never ever be able to probably get to work, or to actually knit together again. So let me show you quickly what it is we can do with a whole lot simpler process, much more accurate. It's going to look more complex, but is in fact much simpler. So this, if you have a look at it, is a solid. So I've been able to knit together. I've been able to trim everything. I've left out some details, but those details can be created once this is a solid. So to do this, I'm going to create a new item, a new part. And there are a few things I didn't show you in the lesson. One is that we actually do need some kind of sketch to start with. So I'm going to put a sketch on the right plane. When I say a sketch, I mean I want a sketch, an actual sketch picture, which is something I would have drawn in a program like Sketchbook Pro, or whatever sketching program it is that you use. So this is something I drew in 2D. Obviously, I would have drawn it to scale. This is what I would have figured. This is not going to be suitable in this case, but it was just an exercise. The way this sketch picture works is you drag the left-hand side of the scaling bar to the left-hand point of your sketch, and then you drag the right hand out to the right-hand side, and then you'll get this dimension dialog box, which you can enter the actual dimension you want, 200. It might go off screen, just zoom to fit, and then you will drag this to a point that you'd find suitable. So it might be there or somewhere else. What you can also do is, in the transparency, you can change your transparency to, say, half or whatever it is that you find suitable. And then we say, okay, all right, so that would be the sketch, and then I could actually use those lines to start the whole item. I'm going to delete this because I'm not going to use it. So let's just exit the sketch. Instead, I'm going to bring in two sketches which I've copied from that prior model that I showed you. So sketch picture, which will be here, and then it'll be that one there, which I will attempt to scale very quickly. So let's just bring that across. So this is kind of rough at the moment. I don't need it to be accurate because I know where I'm going with this, but you can have, obviously, if you want to make it more accurate, somewhere around there, I think we'll do it. And change the transparency to about 0.65. Out we go. And then in the top view, I'm going to do the same thing. Sketch. So in this case, it's going to bring the sketch in the wrong orientation, I'm pretty sure. It has. The way to get this to change is just to type in here under degrees. I want mine to be 90. That should be right. And then drag this down. That one up. That'll be 200 as well. Roughly in place. Make this a lot more transparent and exit. Okay, so let's just see if we have two. Yes, we have two intersecting sketches, which will give us a strong guide as to what we want to do. I'm going to show you a neat little trick, which doesn't really apply to this, but it will apply to other things. If you've got two models and you want to copy sketches from one to the other without having to redraw, which is what I want to do, you just click on the sketch. At the moment, I want to just make sure that I place the sketch in the correct view again. So I've got my sketch in my right view, and my other sketches might not be right, but I'll show you how to do this. You say Control C to copy it, go back to this file here, and then select the plane you want it in. Actually, it's going to bring it in the wrong plane. So, but I'll show you. Control V, it'll actually place it in that plane. There it is. I don't want it in that plane. I want it in the front plane. It's just because I've orientated these sketches front plane incorrectly. I could actually change those. In fact, let's do that. So I'm going to change that to a front. And then this one I will edit. There it is, and then I just drag it across roughly to where I want it to be. Okay, so those should be in place. There we go. Perfect. All right, so I will, I'll kind of skip this bit. I'm going to redefine this. No, actually, shouldn't be too difficult. I know that when you bring a sketch through, it's going to come through without some of the definition, so it's not fully defined. At the moment, I don't want anything to go out of whack, which tends to happen when you start moving things around. So select everything in the sketch, make it fixed. Don't worry if it gives you an error, because all I want to do is I want to get that item linked to this one. And I know that as soon as I do that and take the fixed items off, it should now become fully defined, other than giving this a dimension. See? So the dimension is valid. And if I want to get rid of all of those relations, just go to display deletes. You'll see all of the ones that are overdefined. You can just delete them all. And there we go. It's fully defined. So only thing we don't have is some dimensions. Obviously are in here somewhere. I can't see them, but I'm going to leave it as it is. It's pretty much correct. So here, just to remind you of what I did on Tuesday, we extruded the surface, and you can select the contours. I'm going to delete that one and just select all of the parts that I want. And they're going in the wrong direction, which is fine. I'm going to just keep them going in that direction. There we go. Okay, so there's my basic item shell, and then the two sketches. I'm going to hide this for a moment because I now want to create a sketch on this plane here, on the front of the right plane, the front plane. So front, I'm going to put a sketch in place. And here, a little bit of strategy is essential. So this is where you have to think about what you want to do. What we want, just to go out of this again and make this one visible. Oops. What we want is a set of curves which are projected onto these planes, which meet precisely at a certain point, and from which I can then generate all sorts of other sketches. So that's the basic idea. So to do that, I'm going to put a sketch in here, and I'm deliberately starting from scratch instead of shortcutting, just so that you can see what it is that I do. So the important bit now is this 3-point curve from there to there, roughly like that, and some dimensions. I know that that should be 200 mils. So you can see my underlying sketch is just a guide. I'm not following it strictly because I know what it is that I'm looking for as far as dimensions go. So let's make that 2 millimeters, perhaps a bit more. 3. That's fine. And then give this one a dimension. So I think it was about 1.5. Yeah, nice sort of gentle curve. Okay, so that with that basis in mind, we can generate all the other curves. So we just need one curve. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for you if you were to follow it. So I need one curve which I project onto the surface, and then I can base all the other curves off of this one curve. So the first curve you choose is important in this instance. So here, last time we did a split line, which split the item, but obviously I have to have a closed or a curve which allows me to split a whole item. In this case, it won't. So project curve to that plane, and if it doesn't show as a yellow line, just click on this or say reverse item. Now I could do the other side as well, but it's not necessary at this point. And from here, I need a plane. So I need a plane which sits at that point and which is parallel with the top plane. So there's my plane. It's in line with that item there. And on that plane, I want to put in the top curves. See if I can find it quickly enough. It's not that one. It is one of these top, that sketch there. So I'm going to Control C, top plane, Control V. Okay, I figured out where I went wrong here. This item is on the wrong plane. So that item there, let me just explain this. This new plane that I created is at the end of the point of that line. So what I want is I want that sketch to be on the same plane so that it meets this point on the same plane. So all I need to do now is to edit the sketch plane, and instead of the top plane, it should be this plane here, the sketch plane. Okay, with that in place, if I now edit the sketch, I should be able to get, you can see they're actually meeting that line, that point in that line to pierce. And so now I know that whatever I do with this line, it meets at the intersection of that prior line, this one here, which is going to cut through, give us the flat surface on the top, because this one here is going to project onto these other two surfaces and give us the handle cutout. And that precision is what you're looking for, that absolute precision that we have there. So I'm going to properly define the sketch and then come back. Just to note that one of the things that I do here is make sure that that and that line there are coincident, so that that also is exactly lined up with the edge of this item here. So let me fully define the sketch, and I'm not going to, all right, so here's a fully defined sketch. I've given it a dimension across these two. I've mirrored these two items. I've given that curve a dimension. I've given the beginning and the end of this 3-point curve and that one 2 locating dimensions. So a width and a distance from the right hand side, and then just make sure that these two, if I can get them, two are tangent to one another. So that's great. And then the second part of the sketch, the one I've mirrored, I'm going to make that into construction geometry, and you'll see why in a minute. So now this is fully defined. I'm going to exit that. Not only is it fully defined, but it's actually linked to the other sketches in very precise ways. So for now, I'm going to hide these two because I don't need them. And I'm going to project, but before I do that, I need to project that onto these two planes. I want to actually create another sketch on this plane. So just make sure you choose the right plane, and let's put a sketch on it. So that sketch I'll just copy those two by using the convert entities. Convert entities is also in the sketch item, and if you hit the control button, it is here. Okay, so that's all I need. So I've got two sketches there that I can project. So let's select one of the sketches, project it onto this curve and that curve, this surface and that surface, these two surfaces, and do the same with this one here. Project curve onto that one and that one. So now we should have, if we've done this correctly, should have one curve meeting another curve at exactly the same point, completely linked. We just need to do that again on the right hand side. So let's just find where that sketch is. So that's hidden under this one here. I'm going to show it, and I'm going to select it, and I'm going to use it to project onto that plane. There we go. So we're building up slowly a network of curves. So I've got 4 curves so far, and now I need a few others. So let's go on to the front plane again and sketch on that one. And once again, I'm going to copy a sketch from here, if I can find it. I think it's this one here. Control C. Obviously, you wouldn't be copying, but I'm trying to shortcut things. So if I Control V, there it is. And I need to just put a center line in here. Move these items. Okay, I do remember what I have to do here. So what I need to do is I need to get that to touch this line. And I think I can do that by just grabbing that line, making it into that one there. Power trim down to the bottom, and then also fully define this. So I'll come back once it's fully defined. All right, so this is almost fully defined. I've neglected to define this one just to show you a matter of interest. When you bring sketches across, sometimes they don't bring the sketch that you want. In this case, it's brought a parabola in. There's a parabola instead of a spline. And I would like to replace that with a spline. So I'm going to put a point in here just as a marker of where that begins and ends. And then I'm going to put a spline in its place from that point to there, and then just get this to line up using a tangent. I'm going to delete that point if I can find it. Right, and then I want that to be coincident with that item. And it should be, once I've done, so 65, I'm going to make that a bit smaller, 63. No, 65 was right. It should be that the moment I put in this dimension here, that is fully defined. Okay, so once again, what I've got is I've got a curve which I know is linked to that line there. That center line is kind of my reference point for everything that I do. So this line here is going to be the underside of the handle. So I need to go back in here. I just want to show you one other thing. Yeah, this might be better to do it here. So I'm going to put a point in over here, and I'm going to put a dimension to that point. And that point will mark the high point of a curve. Let's just put a dimension in, and I'll show you where that would exist. So make it 13. Right, so that point there, if we go to the right plane and put a sketch in, that point exists over there, that one there. So if I put in a 3-point line, just go from one to the other to that one, just drag these in a bit. If those were linked, if that sketch were linked to this one here, to the end of that one, that would form the basis for the start and the end, or be the end of the handle curve, and then the start of the sort of the plane in between. I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, I'll explain it in person if you want to know how that works. So let's go out of that. So I don't need that sketch because I got that point. That point marks the highlight of it, or the high point, should I say. So let's put that in. So under sketch, I'm going to use a 3D sketch, and I've got 1 point, 2 points, and a third point that'll allow me to put in a 3-point arc. So I'm going to select that end. Right, and then the third one is this one here. So let's just see, that seems to have done it. All I need to do now is to select that point, select this line, and make it coincident. Should have turned black. There we go. Okay, so I did successfully select the endpoints, and I now have a fully defined 3D sketch, which I can exit. I need a few other sketches, so I'm going to select just this line and put in a plane on that line. So that's fully defined. Let's drag that out. I'm going to put a sketch on there. And here it's the same as what I showed you in class. Create a center line. Spline. Put the spline in roughly from there to there. And then go into a 3D view. Get round to that point. And then get that point. So I might not have shown this during class, but just to recap, I would have shown you something similar. I'm going to get that endpoint to be merged. So merge point, make pierced with that one. And then I'm going to get that endpoint to pierce this line. So I know that these are now fully connected as well. That's another precise way of doing this. And I want to mirror that as a copy around this line. Say yes, and then as soon as I put in a tangent direction, I can drag this out, give it some shape. You can put in more lines if you want. That's good enough for me for now. And I want another sketch also on that plane, so that's going to be one bit, which is going to sort of mirror this line. And I'm going to approximate where this should be. Go into 3D view. And where are we? There we are. So once again, I want to make these end lines connect with these other projections as pierces, so that I'm absolutely certain that everything connects. One more dimension just to give it a bit of definition. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I can create a top surface. I have one curve here. I've got 2 curves. I've got these side curves. So I'm building up a network of curves. I need one more curve, which would be somewhere around there. So I'm going to drag this one out by holding the control button. roughly to where I want it to be. I think that should be about 140 millimeters. That's too far. Let's just go down a bit. 120. Okay, and on that one, I also want to put a sketch. And so the same procedure as before, put in a center line. Spline, and this spline here must join that one. I don't know if it's the right part. Is it the right? Yeah, that looks right. And then this end. So I hope this makes sense to you. I'm connecting the set of projected curves to this center curve here using this item here, and then I'm going to mirror that about that item. Let's just go into the flat view to see what it is I've done. Get these two to be tangent, and then I can just drag one of these lines out, give my handle some shape. All right, so this looks very complicated, but it isn't that bad. Let's get rid of some of this clutter by hiding it. Unfortunately, I can't get rid of those without hiding the full sketch. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to join that sketch to that sketch to that sketch. And then I'm going to use this line and this line, which is projected all the way around, and that line to guide that upper surface. So this projected line is separate from this one, so I don't need to worry about any conflicts. Let's do that. I'm going to go to the lofted surface, and here you need to be careful when you select these lines that you select them all on the same side. You can select them on the wrong side. You'll just have to then swap them around. You'll see that that's not connecting. I would just have to move that around. There we go. So there they connect. I showed you that deliberately just to show you that you can actually select the wrong side of the line. You just have to go and adjust it. So, and then that line. So there's my basic loft, and now I want to use some guide curves. The first one I'm going to do is this one here. You can see that it's done it, and this one I want to be a normal to profile, just to give me a normal tangency around that line, and then I'm going to select the two other lines, that one there and that one there. So now I have a fully defined loft. There it is. And I need one more loft. So loft from would be, all right, so here I'll show you something that is likely not to work as I wanted to. Typically, selected the wrong one. Let's just swap that over. There we go. Typically, intuitively, maybe you want to go from these two different curves and then use the side curves as guide curves. The problem on this one is that the second one, because they both riff off that center line, is now going to kind of deselect and flatten this out again. So this is an instance where it's better to go from side curve to side curve. There we go. And then the guide curves will be the two end curves, the two odd curves. And I don't need any relations because it's just that. Right, so we are on our way because you've basically got everything in place. So I need to cap this. And I think the easiest way to do this is just to go to planar surface. There it is. And just select. So here I can right click, select tangency. Say yes. Let's do the same thing again. So I'm going to right click, select tangency. So I don't waste time selecting all of those curves. And then the easiest way to do this, because you've got everything in one shot, is just to select everything you've got and say trim surface. Okay, sorry, the other way around. Say trim surface and then select everything you've got and then remove. So I've got a mutual one, which allows me to trim more than one surface at once. Remove the ones that you don't want. It's just those three actually. And we've got something in place. And now I need to knit these surfaces. So I should be able to do, once again, just select them all. Say create solid. Let's see if this will do it. So check if, and it's a solid. Right, brilliant. Hopefully that helps. And then from here, it's fairly simple adding items in. But I'm going to leave this video for now, and then I will finish off the rest in another video, which continues, showing details and such like. Thanks for watching. See you next time.